In the distant past of ancient China, long before dynasties and empires, the land was haunted by endless floods. The rivers swelled with furious waters, spilling over their banks, destroying homes and fields. Villages disappeared overnight, swallowed by torrents that roared like dragons across the plains. Families huddled on rooftops, clutching what little they had left, praying the waters would finally recede. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. The floods showed no mercy. The chaos spread everywhere. Harvests failed, people starved, roads were washed away, and families were torn apart. In some places, people had to abandon their ancestral lands, wandering to higher ground in search of safety. For them, life became a cycle of fleeing and rebuilding, only to be swept away again. These were dark times, when the people of the world cried out for salvation. The task of controlling the floods first fell to a man named Gun, the father of Yu. Gun was determined and brave, but he believed the only way to fight the waters was to block them. He ordered great barriers of earth and stone to be piled up, creating massive dams in an attempt to hold the floods back. At first, it seemed his plan might work. The rising waters paused, held behind the barriers. But nature was not so easily defeated. The rivers raged, growing higher and stronger until the barriers collapsed. When the dams broke, the floods returned with greater fury, sweeping away entire villages in moments. After 9 long years of failure, Gun's mission ended in tragedy, and the people's suffering only deepened. It was then that the responsibility passed to Gun's son, Yu. Unlike his father, Yu was not quick to rely on force. He studied carefully. He walked along riverbanks, climbed mountains, and studied valleys. He observed how waters moved, how they carved their way through rocks, how they always sought the lowest path. Slowly, he began to understand. The key was not to block the water, but to guide it. Not to oppose nature, but to work with it. With this vision in his heart, Yu began his great work. He gathered people from every tribe, uniting them with a common goal: to tame the floods. Together, they dug channels, cut through mountains, and opened new paths for the rivers to follow. Where the waters once spread out chaotically, Yu guided them toward the sea. Where the rivers overflowed, he carved channels to ease their burden. It was back-breaking labor, and it lasted for 13 long years. The hardships Yu endured during this time became legendary. He did not sit in comfort, commanding from afar. Instead, he worked alongside the people, his feet sinking into the same mud, his hands blistered from the same tools. He waded through rivers up to his chest, carrying baskets of earth and stone. He braved storms and scorching suns, never resting, never retreating. His body grew scarred and weathered, yet his spirit remained unbroken. One of the most famous parts of Yu's story is his sacrifice. During those 13 years, Yu passed by his own home 3 times. Each time his wife and child were inside, waiting for him. Each time, his heart ached with longing. He wanted to step through the door, to embrace his family, to rest for even a moment. But he did not. Yu knew that if he stopped, even for a day, the work would fall behind, and the people would continue to suffer. So he kept walking. 3 times he passed his door, and 3 times he did not enter. This sacrifice became a symbol of his devotion to the greater good, a reminder that true leadership requires selflessness. As the years went by, Yu's wisdom and persistence bore fruit. Slowly, the floods receded. Villages that had once been underwater stood dry again. Farmers planted seeds in fields that had long been barren, and for the first time in decades, crops grew tall and golden. Children played along riverbanks without fear of being swept away. The people rejoiced, for their suffering had finally ended. And all of this was because of you. The people called him You the Great, a title that spoke not only of his strength, but of his heart. His success went beyond flood control. By bringing peace to the land, You also brought unity to the tribes. Leaders from across the land respected him and chose to follow his guidance. In time, You became the first ruler of the Xia dynasty, the earliest dynasty in Chinese history. He was no longer only the hero who tamed the floods. He was the founder of a new civilization. Yu's story carries many lessons. It teaches the importance of perseverance, of never giving up, even when the task seems impossible. It teaches humility, for Yu did not try to overpower nature, but chose to understand it and work alongside it. And it teaches sacrifice, showing how one person's willingness to give up personal comfort can bring hope to countless others. For the people of China, Yu the Great became more than a historical figure. He became a symbol of resilience. Even today, when floods or disasters strike, when challenges seem overwhelming, Yu's spirit is remembered. His name is spoken as a reminder that through wisdom, unity, and determination, even the greatest obstacles can be overcome. Thus, the tale of Yu the Great is not just a story from the distant past. It is a living legacy, echoing through the centuries, inspiring every generation to face hardship with courage, to put the needs of others before their own, and to live in harmony with the world around them. In the ancient times, when the world was still young, people multiplied across the earth. But with growth came corruption. Violence spread among nations, and greed poisoned human hearts. The world, once created in beauty and harmony, became filled with cruelty and injustice. According to the book of Genesis, God looked upon the earth and saw that it was corrupt, for every inclination of the human heart was only evil all the time. Sorrow filled the Creator's heart. The world was drowning in wickedness, and humanity had strayed too far from the path of righteousness. A great decision was made. The world would be cleansed by a mighty flood, a deluge so vast it would wash away the corruption that had taken root. Yet amid this judgment, one man stood apart, Noah. Noah was described as a righteous man, blameless in his generation, a man who walked faithfully with God. Because of his integrity, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And so, while destruction loomed over the earth, Noah was chosen for a divine mission, to preserve life and carry humanity into a renewed world. God spoke to Noah, giving him precise instructions. "Build an ark," he commanded, "a great vessel of cypress wood. Make it with rooms inside and cover it with pitch to keep out the water. Its length shall be 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. It was to be an enormous structure, large enough to house Noah's family and representatives of every living creature. It would be a floating sanctuary, carrying the seeds of a new beginning. Imagine the challenge before Noah. He was not a shipbuilder, nor did he live by the sea, yet he obeyed without question. Day after day, year after year, Noah and his sons cut down trees, shaped beams, and fitted planks together. Their neighbors must have watched with confusion, even ridicule. To them, Noah's work was foolishness, a giant wooden vessel in the middle of dry land. But Noah remained steadfast. His faith was stronger than the laughter of men, for he trusted in the word of God. When the ark was complete, the time of judgment drew near. God instructed Noah to bring into the ark pairs of every kind of animal, male and female, so that life would not perish from the earth. Birds of the sky, beasts of the field, creeping creatures of the ground, All were gathered. The sight must have been astonishing. Lions and lambs, eagles and doves, serpents and oxen, all walking in peace toward the massive ark. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives entered as well. 8 souls chosen to survive the flood. Then the skies darkened. Clouds gathered, heavy and thick, until the heavens burst open. Rain poured down in sheets, unrelenting, while the fountains of the deep erupted from beneath the earth. Waters rose with terrifying speed, sweeping across valleys, tearing down villages, and lifting the ark from the ground. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain continued until the entire earth was covered. Mountains vanished beneath the waves. All living things outside the ark perished, and the world became a silent ocean. Inside the ark, Noah and his family waited. The days were long and uncertain, filled with the cries of animals and the rocking of endless waves. Yet the vessel held firm. The waters surged, but the ark floated safely, guided by the hand of God. For 150 days, the flood covered the earth, until at last the waters began to recede. The ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat. When the peaks appeared, Noah sent out a raven to see if the waters had dried. It flew back and forth, finding no place to land. Then he sent out a dove, but it too returned, for the land was still submerged. After 7 days, he released the dove again, and this time it returned with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Hope stirred in Noah's heart. The waters were retreating, and life was returning to the earth. After 7 more days, he sent out the dove once more, and it did not return. The land was ready. At God's command, Noah opened the doors of the ark. The animals poured out, beasts leaping, birds soaring, insects crawling, each returning to the earth to begin anew. Noah and his family stepped out into a world cleansed and reborn. The flood had destroyed the old, but it also prepared the way for renewal. The first thing Noah did was build an altar. He offered sacrifices of thanksgiving, praising God for deliverance. And in response, God made a covenant, a sacred promise. Never again would he destroy the earth by flood. As a sign of this covenant, God placed a rainbow in the sky, a bridge of colors stretching across the clouds. Whenever rain fell, the rainbow would remind both God and humanity of his mercy and his faithfulness. The story of Noah's Ark is one of faith, obedience, and survival. It shows that even in the darkest times, one person's righteousness can preserve the future of all. It teaches the power of trust, trusting the unseen, trusting the promise of something greater. For Noah, it was not skill or strength that saved humanity, but faith in God's command. Throughout history, the image of the ark has remained powerful. It represents refuge amid chaos, hope amid despair, and the belief that life can begin again, even after overwhelming destruction. For countless generations, the rainbow has stood as a symbol of peace, reminding humanity of the bond between Creator and creation. And so Noah's story endures, not just as a tale of survival, but as a lesson in faith. When the storms of life rise, when the floods of uncertainty threaten to drown us, Noah's Ark reminds us to hold fast to what we believe, to trust in the promise of renewal, and to wait patiently for the rainbow that follows the storm. Across different corners of the ancient world, 2 powerful stories emerged, one from China, the other from the Middle East. Though oceans apart, both tales deal with the same overwhelming force, the flood. Yet the way each culture tells the story reveals deep differences in how humanity understood nature, the divine, and their place in the universe. Let us begin with Yu the Great. His story is about resilience, wisdom, and human effort. You faced floods not as divine punishment, but as a challenge from nature itself. The raging waters were destructive, yes, but they were not moral. They were natural forces that needed to be understood. You did not pray for miracles. Instead, he studied the rivers, learned their patterns, and worked tirelessly with his people to guide the waters back to the sea. His solution came from human observation, perseverance, and sacrifice. In this way, Yu's tale reflects the Chinese view of harmony between humans and nature. One must not conquer nature, but cooperate with it. Now turn to Noah's Ark. His story is not about taming rivers, but about surviving divine judgment. The flood came not from natural imbalance, but from God's decision to cleanse a corrupt world. The waters were not just physical, they were moral, carrying the weight of justice and renewal. Noah was chosen because of his righteousness, and his salvation came not through engineering, but through faith. He built the ark not by his own idea, but by obeying divine instruction. In this way, Noah's story reflects the biblical view of humanity's relationship with God. Survival and renewal come through trust, obedience, and covenant. So here we see two visions of the flood. In Yu's story, the flood is a problem of the natural world, solved by human intelligence and collective effort. In Noah's story, the flood is a problem of the moral world, solved by divine mercy and human faith. One emphasizes human responsibility, the other emphasizes divine grace. Yet despite these differences, the stories share striking similarities. Both begin with disaster, waters rising, threatening to wipe out human life. Both center on a single figure, Yu in China, Noah in the West, who carries the burden of saving the people. Both endure hardship and sacrifice, whether it is Yu passing his home without entering, or Noah enduring months inside the ark. And both emerge as founders of new beginnings. Yu became the first ruler of the Xia dynasty, uniting tribes into China's earliest state. Noah became the ancestor of all post-flood humanity, entering into a covenant that shaped the future of Israel and beyond. Together, these tales remind us of something universal: humanity's longing for survival, order, and renewal. Whether through wisdom or through faith, whether by guiding rivers or building an ark, people across cultures sought hope in the face of overwhelming disaster. The flood threatened to erase everything, but it also opened the way to new life, new order, and new meaning. When we place Yu and Noah side by side, we see not only differences of culture, but also the shared heartbeat of humanity. Across time and space, people told stories of courage, endurance, and hope. The details may differ, the channels of rivers or the beams of an ark, but the message is the same. When the waters rise, humanity rises too.